Jesus told this parable to the disciples. The kingdom of heaven will be like this. It is as if a man, going on a journey, summoned his slaves and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1, to each according to his ability. Then he went away. The one who had received the 5 talents went off at once and traded with them, and made 5 more talents. In the same way, the one who had the 2 talents made 2 more talents. But the one who had received the 1 talent went off and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those slaves came and settled accounts with them. Then the one who had received the 5 talents came forward, bringing 5 more talents, saying, "Master, you handed over to me 5 talents. See, I have made 5 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." And the one with the 2 talents also came forward, saying, "Master, you handed over to me 2 talents. See, I have made 2 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and trustworthy slave. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master." Then the one who had received the 1 talent also came forward, saying, "Master, I knew that you were a harsh man, reaping where you did not sow, and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. Here you have what is yours." But his master replied, "You wicked and lazy slave. You knew, did you, that I reap where I did not sow, and gather where I did not scatter? Then you ought to have invested my money with the bankers, and on my return I would have received what was my own with interest. So take the talent from him, and give it to the one with the 10 talents. For to all those who have, more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who have nothing, even what they have will be taken away. As for this worthless slave, throw him into the outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." This parable of the talents reminds us of our responsibility as stewards of God's gifts, resources, and opportunities. Jesus uses the story of a man who goes on a journey and entrusts his property to his servants, giving them varying amounts of money, talents, according to their abilities. What follows is a lesson on faithfulness, fear, and the proper use of the gifts God has given us. The first 2 servants represent those who recognize the preciousness of what they have been given and the responsibility that comes with it. They immediately set to work, trading and investing the talents, and they each double what was entrusted to them. Their actions demonstrate initiative, courage, and faithfulness. They do not hesitate or let fear hold them back. Instead, they make the most of their opportunities, and as a result, they receive praise from their master. In contrast, the 3rd servant, who was given 1 talent, chooses a path of fear and inaction. Rather than using what he has been given, he buries it in the ground, returning it without any increase when the master returns. His excuse is rooted in a perception of his master as a harsh and unjust man, leading him to act out of fear rather than faith. The master's harsh response reveals the seriousness of this servant's failure, not because he had little, but because he did nothing with what he had. His fear led to paralysis, his lack of trust led to negligence, and his unwillingness to take risks led to judgment. The parable challenges us to consider how we use the gifts God has given us, be they talents, resources, opportunities, time, or spiritual gifts. Are we like the first 2 servants, taking what we have been given and using it for God's glory, trusting in His provision and goodness, and being willing to take risks for the kingdom of heaven? Or do we bury our gifts, allowing fear, doubt, or a limited understanding of God's nature to hold us back? When we trust in God and use our talents faithfully, we open ourselves to receive even more, entering into the joy and abundance of the Lord. However, when we hold back, driven by fear or a skewed perception of God, we risk losing not only the gifts we have, but also the joy that comes from serving Him fully. This parable reminds us that the gifts we have are not ours to keep, but are entrusted to us for a purpose. We are called to be bold, faithful, and diligent stewards, using what we have been given to further God's kingdom, knowing that one day we will provide an account for how we have used them. Questions for spiritual growth. 1. What talents, gifts, or resources has God entrusted to me? How am I currently using them to serve God and others? 2. Are there any fears or doubts that prevent me from fully utilizing my gifts for God's kingdom? How can I overcome these fears with trust and faith? 3. Do I perceive God as generous and loving, inviting me into His joy, or do I sometimes see Him as demanding and harsh? How does my perception of God shape my willingness to serve and take risks? 4. What steps can I take today to be a more faithful and courageous steward of the gifts I have been given? 5. How can I encourage others in my community to use their talents for God's glory, fostering an environment where gifts are multiplied and shared? 6. Reflecting on the words, "Enter into the joy of your master." How do I envision the joy that comes from faithfully serving God, and how can I seek that joy in my daily life?